What is up, stinkers? So, we all know Arcane is just the new meta. It's insanely overpowered. Currently I'm rocking with a 78 Arcane. I've had around 80 Arcane since I started this character. This character is very, very strong right now, very high level, but just know I've been rocking with 80 Arcane since this character was like first created. And I already made a few videos on the double Uchi katanas because this blood loss buildup is insane. It was insane on its own, and then it got even better with the arcane buff because now it's essentially if you put them both on, if you put them both on and you do a crouching or a dodge attack, you slash with both swords, and it's essentially a guaranteed bleed proc every time you do it. So you can see this giant right here, and if I apply Seppuku to both my swords, we're gonna see how many times I have to hit him to trigger blood loss. So I'm gonna crouch attack, blood loss on the first hit. Crouch attack again, blood loss. So essentially, if you're in a boss fight and you're just dodging around and doing the slash or just crouch spamming on a big boss like a dragon or something, you're gonna be triggering bleed literally like every time you slash. The problem is, this like blood loss just can't carry you through this game. Like people say it does, blood loss just won't get you that far in this game. Because don't get me wrong, blood loss works. Like when you get an enemy that can bleed, blood loss works good. Like it's definitely the best option. Like it's insane just like swinging at an enemy and they just die in a few hits because you're just triggering blood loss. The problem is when you get to an enemy that has no ability to bleed. When you get to an enemy that can't bleed, like a rock type enemy or a kind of like undead, like bone character or something like that, if you get to an enemy that can't bleed, you're kind of screwed. And so, the Uchi Katanas, they themselves do enough damage to kind of like carry you. When you start getting a new game plus, like the bleed is very strong, but the damage itself won't be enough because the downside of putting your scaling into bleed is you lose all your damage if you were to go into like Keen or something. But there's one thing people aren't talking about. Like I have not seen anybody talking about this, and it's kind of weird. But no one's talking about this right here, Occult. Now, Occult, all Occult does is takes your arcane and converts it into straight raw damage. So you can see there in the Uchikatana, it brings it up to 247 normal damage and gives me like 125 more when it comes to my scaling because it turns my arcane scaling straight to B. And so if you're an arcane character, you can just do that for raw damage. And so what I've made is I have two sets of power stance weapons. I'm rocking two Zweihanders. Very good weapon. Um, People aren't talking about this weapon. I've seen some people in PvP. In PvP, it's really good because the dodge attack. Let me take these off real quick. The dodge attack or the roll it's amazing for roll catch. Like I just do this in PvP against people that are trying to run from me. You can also do it on the crouch and just kind of poke at people. And Giant's Hunt is just amazing for damage on people, and it catches them off guard. And if you hit them with an R2, you can essentially just get a guaranteed follow-up with the Giant Hunt. So it's good for PvP. It also just does a lot of damage, and it's very optimal for PvE. It's a colossal sword, but you can see it weighs like way less than a colossal sword should. It weighs like almost as much as just a great sword, but when it comes to colossal swords, it's essentially like the most optimal pick if you're trying to like keep yourself kind of like low on your carry weight. And if you want a Zweihander, you just gotta come down to the peninsula here. You gotta come to right here on the map to the isolated merchant shack, and you come in here, and this guy will sell you one. He only sells you one, and so if you want a power stance like I do, you either have to go into New Game Plus or go on a new character, come over here. It's very easy to get from here when you start a new character. You just gotta get like a couple thousand souls and just come down here, buy it, and then you can have a friend mule it over for you, which is what I did. I wanted another character, and I went and I bought this sword, and then I gave it to my friend. My friend gave it back to me on this character, and I leveled it up. You don't need to, like, if you don't want to go through that trouble of either New Game Plusing or muling, literally, I rocked with the one-handed for a while. It's still just as good, especially when you use Giant's Hunt. It's a amazing sword, and I just dual-wielded it because I wanted a little more oomph and I wanted to look cooler. I'm also rocking 2 rapiers. These are the Cleanrot Knights blood sword. You get these from just killing Cleanrot Knights, and I'll show you where I farmed those. If you want to come over here to the Ionia Swamp Shore, when you spawn here, you can hop on Torrent, ride north a little bit to this little group of like mushrooms, I guess, here, and right here, Cleanrot Knight will spawn, and you can just kill them. Then they have a chance of dropping the sword. If you want to, there's a little bit of a faster spawn over here. If you go to the heart of Aeonia, you need to kill the boss here first to get this checkpoint. So if you don't want to do that, just go to the one I just showed you. But you can spawn in. Oop. Spawn in. Hop on Torrent real quick. Run down here, and there's a Cleanrot Knight. If you're using Zweihander, you can just pop, and you can just do that. And then go back and forth until you get yourself 2 Cleanrot Knight swords. And then just like the katanas, I put seppuku on both of them. And so you might be wondering like where I'm going with this, and the whole idea is uchi katanas with a double seppuku blood are great for blood enemies, and they're at best decent for non-bleed enemies. It gets really tough in the endgame stuff when an enemy doesn't bleed. So the whole idea of using these 2 sets, or at least just the Zweihander, you don't need 2 Zweihanders, just have a Zweihander, or honestly any like strong weapon other than 2 of these rapiers, because your whole idea is you're going to have 1 weapon that's meant for just doing damage to everything all the time, and then you're going to have the 2 Cleanrot swords, or just 2 rapiers at all, which are going to be fully dedicated to bleeding, because honestly, this is going to bleed better than the Uchi Katanas will, because you could just spam this. The jumping attack is great, because you do like 4 attacks, you see there, and then you can just go right into the combo, and you're going to just trigger bleed on like every hit if you're using seppuku on both of them. Now you might be wondering, you know, how does this Zweihander get so strong? And it's just what I said about the Uchi Katanas. You want to apply Occult to it, because it turns your Arcane into direct damage, which makes it like fucking crazy strong. Because you see blood here, you're doing less damage, and you don't get that good of scaling. Because if you're going into full Arcane, you're not going to have that much dex, you know. So if you're going into an Arcane character, you want to use Occult. It's an amazing perk. But I'll prove to you how strong the Occult Zweihander is. I'm gonna go just kill a couple of strong enemies. Unfortunately, on this character, I've literally like 100% of the game, so I don't have any bosses to kill, and I don't want to start New Game Plus quite yet. So I have to just show you strong enemies. So you come over here, everyone knows these annoying dogs. If you have Giant's Hunt on your Zweihander, you have Arcane, you just one-shot, boom, he's down. I'm about to do a light attack on this guy. I'll just do a standing light attack. Oh, didn't mean to backstab the dude. But I'll just do a normal light attack on this dog. Half its health, 800 damage. 800 damage again. If you're like me and you get the second Zweihander, you can do a power stance jumping attack. Boom. 1600 damage right there. Power stance attack. Insane damage. Just insane. So now, this is like one of the last areas in the game. You should know this place is hard. And over here, some of you may know about this really tough guy. This tough champion guy over here. Scarlet Rot champion. If you kill this guy, actually it gives you like the a part of the armor set that I'm wearing right now. And his axe. But if you use Giant's Hunt on this guy, you can see that it just completely stuns the dude. And I can just stun lock him with it. And this is like a very strong big enemy. And I just stun lock him and I can push him off the map. See, there he goes. Pop. So Arcane users, don't be fooled. Bleed is not the only option you have. Bleed is actually more of a secondary thing. It's definitely a very cheesy thing that should be used when you have the opportunity to. So I'll do it on the same enemy here. And I'll show you the difference between the rapiers and the Uchikatanas. Fire Cuckoo. Right into the running jump combo. onto this guy. See that? The rapiers just attack so fast, and the bleed is guaranteed to always stun just whatever you're hitting, even if it's a boss. Bleed isn't always stunning thing. So I'll do that same thing with the katanas. So we want to start it off with the crouching attack. Guaranteed bleed, guaranteed bleed, guaranteed bleed. And at first glance, you see that and you go, he died faster. The problem with that is I was clicking crouch and making sure I stood still to do this exact like slash attack. And it also snuck up on the dude. If it was like a boss and they were only getting procced every like 2 hits of this would be a lot harder to pull off. So that's why I personally think just using the rapiers is more efficient because you could just run up and just start just spamming. You don't gotta crouch or anything. You just start slapping the enemy, and you also attack faster, so you're triggering bleed faster. So on bosses, this definitely is way more efficient. PvP, I was using this earlier. It's very good because people you could roll catch with the multiple attacks. So yeah, if you're an arcane user, that's just the setup. You just want a strong weapon of your choice. You want to put a Colt on it, and you want to rock double rapiers with blood, or double uchikatanas if you can't get rapiers or anything like that. I'd still say rapiers is definitely the best. But just remember the thing I really wanted to show in this tutorial was just the occult. Like please know that occult is a thing and use occult. It is very, very good. It's insane damage. Like it's insane. And especially if you are an arcane character and you have bleed, don't try to respec. I've seen a few of the bigger tutorial creators on YouTube. They saying like, oh, bleed damage is very good, but some enemies can't bleed, so you want to respec into like dexterity or keen or something. Don't do that. Don't do that because that's always gonna be weaker. If you're arcane already for bleed, just get an occult weapon. It's that simple. And if you don't have like the resources to hold like 2 different sets of weapons at once, you can literally just rock like 2 Uchi with bleed on it. And then when you get to a boss that happens to not bleed, just go into your bonfire and just switch it out for a cult real quick. So that's literally all I just wanted to show you. Just know that cult is a thing and it is strong. Please use it if an enemy can't bleed. And arcane users, that will help you a lot. So thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like, and I'll catch you in the next one.